Hey guys, it's Abby. Um, I I wanted to talk about a subject that's recently come into the forefront of my thoughts. Uh, this is because one of the creators that I listened to recently had a chat about this, and it really got me thinking. And I just wanted to kind of free flow thought ramble, something that maybe you can fall asleep to. Hopefully I don't get too intense. Or something you can put on while you're working on a project, or just trying to distract yourself from worries. That's always what I hope my channel can be. It's not just romantic things. It's not just something silly. It's not just something, emotionally, I make it sound like my channel's not worthwhile. It is. I find that content extremely cathartic and beneficial to mental health. And so that's why I want to provide that type of content to you. But I also feel like having someone speak honestly to you, person to person, can really help check your perspective and also let us know that we're not alone in our thoughts. We're not all aliens wandering in confusion, trying to be an adult. And so I felt that I wanted to talk about this topic a little bit. It is not structured at all, so I apologize how much of a ramble this might be. But hopefully it is beneficial to you to either actually listen to it or fall asleep to it. Both are totally okay. I'll try not to put any negative thoughts into your brain while you're sleeping. So the topic today is going to be a hard one, and one that I feel like we don't talk about anymore, which is interesting. And I say this because when this creator brought up this topic and admitted in an honest way about feelings regarding this topic, I was astonished because we forget. Let me just jump in. So I'm making this very confusing and I don't need to do that. So the topic is loneliness, right? We can probably all say we felt some kind of loneliness in our lives at some point, maybe throughout our whole lives. It just depends. It's all very subjective to the individual, and therefore any sense of loneliness we felt is all legitimate. It doesn't matter if you have 50 friends that you hang out with all the time. You can still feel lonely. And it doesn't matter if you talk to people online all day long and have even deep, meaningful conversations. You're still allowed to feel lonely, because loneliness it comes from connection, I think. Sometimes it's hard to find the right kind of connection, something that we, as an individual, with our very unique individual identities, it's hard to find a place or a person or a passion in this world where we feel completely content and at home and safe and seen. And I say this having, many relationships of various types in my life. I am blessed. I'm very lucky to have meaningful relationships that I'm very proud of, because I've worked hard, I feel, at maintaining them and trying to be my best person while in them. But that doesn't mean I don't feel lonely sometimes. And there's different kinds of loneliness, and I think it's all valid. It's all legitimate. Feelings are feelings. No one can tell you not to feel a certain way. And I think our society likes to tell us that we are connected and that we should never feel lonely because we're always talking to somebody else. There's always a means to do so. And I feel like there is. That's not wrong. There's always something new to try to pursue. So mainly, I feel like we shouldn't give up. We shouldn't just throw in the towel that we can't connect with another human in some way that makes us feel that loneliness void has been filled, even if it's just temporarily or it's only partially. I think our world is also riddled with lots of mental illness. And I'm saying this in a non-judgmental way because I suffer from depression and anxiety, and I'm treated for both, but that doesn't mean they go away. And it can really also impact your ability to connect with other people on any level, in any form. This creator talked about how terrifying it was to approach getting to know a new person. And this creator is a brilliant performer, extremely talented, and very good at speaking to his audience. And yet he still felt this fear, and I thought, oh, thank God, not because I wanted him to feel this way. That's terrible. I don't want anyone to feel this way. But I've always felt like such a weirdo, such an alien for being afraid of approaching that situation, which I have to get to know someone new. I mean, it's absolutely terrifying. And the way I kind of deal with it is to say, well, it doesn't matter. I don't have any investment in this interaction, which I don't think is always fair. I think I kind of shoot myself in the foot because looking at it now, I have friends, yes, but all of the relationships that have stuck around and I've maintained, I built way back in high school or before. I'm trying to think. I've only made maybe a couple lasting new friends since that time. And that just, that's a while. Let's see, when I was in high school. It's over 10 years. Let's see. Yeah, well over 10 years. And I haven't made any new friends except perhaps one or two that we're slowly developing that relationship into something more. And I have hopes for those, but that's it. In a decade, I've made short-term friendships, work relationships that seemed to border on something that maybe could be a friendship outside of work, but it never went anywhere. And I always wondered if this was just because of my anxiety. So hence why I seek out channels that like to help calm that. I think all of my identity comes out all at once in this storm of strangeness and peculiarity, and sometimes I'm too loud, and sometimes I care too much about whether I'm having a positive impact on another person or another person's day. I'm worried about them judging what I look like or what I'm wearing. which, that's mostly the media's fault. As a woman, I've been beaten down in every possible way to tell me that there's something wrong with me, no matter what direction I go. But how I speak, before I started this channel, I did acting, right? So I was an actress, but when I was acting, I never really worried about what I sounded like. Now, granted, all the acting I did was college and before, and then a little bit here and there after that, but nothing major. And not that I did anything major in college or high school, but I participated. But I never worried about what I sounded like. And then something happened as I got away from acting. And I'd hear my voice. You ever hear your voice suddenly on the phone, on a recording, and you think, oh my God, who is that? Why did they sound so terrible? And I've never thought this about anyone else's voice in my whole life. So I wondered, well, why do I hate my voice so much? And it has to do something with some dissonance between the reverberations in our skull and how it comes out. And so what we're hearing all day long and is familiar is not how other people hear it, because they don't have the reverberation going through their skull that changes how it's perceived. But having started this channel, I actually get to listen to myself all the time. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, no one will want to hear this voice of mine, no matter what I do with it, no how much I play with it, how much I'm whispering or sighing or anything like that. How no matter how low it is or how high it is, or if I'm singing, that they will find this voice utterly repulsive. And then I kept thinking, why? There are voices that I think, they're not as pleasant as other voices, but it doesn't mean I think there's something wrong with them. They're just a voice. And it's either the voice I find relaxing to listen to, or it's not. And that's it. I don't think anything beyond that. It's either my cup of tea or it isn't, but I'm not repulsed by the voice. I'm just think, oh, that's not what I want for this purpose. So I forced myself to keep working and keep recording and keep listening. And now I actually enjoy hearing my voice. I find it very pleasant. It actually calms me down quite a lot because I'm listening to my own inner voice doing something else. And so it's not getting a chance to go crazy all on its own. It's being drowned out by itself almost. But I worried for years that I would talk to someone and they would be thinking I sounded weird, or the way I formed sentences was unusual, which I do. I form sentences in a strange way. My syntax, my enunciation, my pronunciation, sometimes it is different from other people. And I think that's just because I like the sounds of things. I like the way it sounds coming out sometimes, and I like to change and play with that. I'm also a writer, so sometimes my sentences can sound stilted because I'm taking the time to construct them in my head beforehand. Anyway, it leads to this very unique identity of myself in presentation to others. And I was worried no one would find that appealing. Now, that's obviously not been the case. I am struggling with YouTube, but I don't think that's because of my content per se, because I'm just literally not getting the views I would like. But those of you who are responding and subscribing, I'm doing great there relative to, that ratio. So keep it up and thank you. But back to the topic. I get sidetracked so easily. I've always felt cut off, just like this creator. And again, suffer from anxiety, depression. These things can really impact your ability to make new connections with other people. A lot of the friends I got before I had these feelings had developed so fully, especially the depression. That didn't develop till much later in my life, I feel. So now, as a full-fledged adult, living in the adult world, adulting as much as I can, I do find it really hard to make new friends. Like, impossible hard. And I even struggle. What's so strange is a lot of, this creator mentioned how it was easier to connect online, but that he missed interacting with humans. That he had interactions online, but he was missing that. He was feeling lonely for that one-on-one interaction with humans. And I feel like it's almost the opposite not the opposite. I'm lucky that I have in-person people to hang out with, but connecting to strangers on the internet, even in a professional way, especially in this creative venue in which I would love to have more dialogues about content creation and subject matter and, that whole thing, human psychology. I'd love to have more conversations like that with you lovely folks. But I find it hard to even know how to go about that. And when I have the opportunity to respond to comments, sometimes I panic that, oh no, I'm gonna respond and it's not scripted and they're gonna think I'm a weirdo and unsubscribe. And I think though part of my channel is that it's weird and I feel like it's gonna get weirder as I go along because that's who I am. I mean, I already started off a little strange and it's just like working its way further into the unusual and unique. And I'm not unhappy about that, but still I have this panic of what are they going to think of me? Do they like me? Do they like my content? Is my voice pleasant? And I think, oh my gosh, was this a great choice for someone like me who worries so much about what others think on some level? I mean, I'm so much better than when I was younger. Oh, I thank God every day I'm older. So many people, especially women, feel like, oh, I'm getting older. It's a terror. It's a tragedy. And I think, oh, thank God. I'm one day smarter and wiser than I was yesterday. Because seriously, I am. I'm getting a lot better at everything every day. Well, not a lot better, but you can tell the difference. 1 year ago, even then, I'm so glad to survive life this long and to make improvements on my life and how I perceive everything. How many of you feel that way? I know I'm in the minority. I know a lot of people who are thinking, oh, I'm getting older. Oh no, what am I going to do? And I think, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm so happy. Maybe I'll stop thinking this at some point in my life. I don't know. I really, really value wisdom and patience. And these are both things. Tolerance. Oh, the three beautiful things. They are huge to how confident I am in myself and how much grace I show myself. And so I get better at it every day. But back to the topic of loneliness. I think one of the things I am lonely for, and I'm trying to rectify it, I have wonderful, heartfelt people for emotional support, and that I can then give emotional support to, which I love to do. But I'm really looking for connections on a creative level. As a creator, as a content creator, as a writer, I feel like that is something I need to grow because I just feel lost with regards to these topics. And I know it seems like not, because, I'm publishing content, and I've talked about how I'm writing a book series, which I am super excited about, but that part of myself, that writer part, that creative part, I don't feel like I have someone I can connect with regards to that. Not fully. And there's some people that, I know some writers, and I'm not saying that they're not lovely people. They are, and they know who they are, talented. But I've yet to be able to make a lasting kind of creative connection regarding this part of myself. And I think I got a lot of it from school, when I was in school, because it was something we talked a lot about. But even then, I felt so alone. I didn't think like the other writers in my creative writing groups. I didn't hate certain subjects, so that kind of put me, out of the loop with regards to English majors, which is, what I graduated with a creative and analytical writing dual focus. In some ways, I feel like a poet, but I don't behave or think like a typical poet. I want to write every day, and I want to write creatively, but I find it very hard. Whereas a lot of creative writers, they just can't get enough of it. And I don't know if it's because I divide my creative energy too much, but that's part of how it works for me. I like to do this channel, which is writing, but it's a different kind of writing. This dialogue and, honestly, romantic content, sexy stuff. It's easier to write. It's just, it's like breathing. And it doesn't require, complex plot or anything like that. So that helps me. I just have to work on presentation. It's very much about how can this be presented out loud. It's not so much about how is it written. Sorry, my voice is getting rather gravelly. It's from talking so much. I'm gonna have a sip. I'm snuggled. This is a bedtime chat, by the way. I'm drinking a sparkling water in a can, but I'm snuggled up because I felt like this topic is hard to talk about in normal circumstances, so I kind of felt like I needed a cozy blanket. So I've felt this way for, oh gosh, wanting desperately to connect to someone or multiple someones on a creative level, really connect, really feel, fall into that giddy joy over creation, if any of you are, creative types. I think everyone's a creative type, in my opinion. You just have to figure out how. But any of you who feel like this is familiar, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if we've actually experienced it, but what it is you want. And I think when I was younger, what got in my way was ego, for sure, because it was always a pissing contest to see who was the most creative, the better writer. And it wasn't that we weren't supportive of each other, but it was in a context of let me show off. And that's because, we were young and we were trying to build our chops and establish ourselves in a pool of people as being top writing people or top acting people or both, or creative thinkers, or whatever it may be. And I feel like I get that a lot with, when I was younger, again, looking at showcases of work, I felt, wow, these are really great, but every time I wanted to go connect with someone on a personal level about creating art of some kind of creative venture, egos would get in the way, mine or someone else's. And I just really want to connect to people on the process, the enjoyment of creating things. I write for this channel. I act for this channel. I do the creative Foley work. I'm writing a book series. I say that like it's all established. I mean, I have this all plotted out. I'm working on the first book. And I also craft. And that sounds vague, but I am a DIYer. I like to make beautiful things. Functional things, beautiful things, decorative things, whatever. I like to do that. And that's a lot of my creative energy is divided in those, those ways. Those 3 to 4 ways, if you want to call it. And I wonder if that's why I struggle so much to focus on any one of these a lot. But I just want to do them all. And when I start focusing on one, it's almost like it suffers. I think I do well with a diverse approach, because then I bring interests from other things in, and it becomes layered and interesting. So I will say, I think it could be a strength, but I have to work on it. Continuously working on it. But I feel so lonely for someone to connect to in that way. I can sometimes connect to people. I just want someone who gets me on that level. It's not like a life partner. No, that's not what I'm talking about. This is just a creative companion. Someone to go on those creative adventures, those thought adventures with me. That's it. No other aspects of my life. I'm totally fine in the other areas. Just someone who I could talk to about this creative process, getting excited about creating something specifically for writing. I feel like with DIYing, you can go on Pinterest and you can see all these people's exciting things they've built, and you can do your own and then you share it, and that's fine, but it doesn't feel like much of a connection, really, to me. But I don't think, even when I show the people I know directly, like they show them something I've built, do I get that much satisfaction out of it? I think I just need to build things for myself, to create things for myself. And I would say that's the same with writing, except I don't feel that way with writing, and I don't know why. Writing, I feel lonely. And I think this is why it's hard for me to get into it. When I was younger, I didn't feel this way. It felt like an escape. And then when I started college and all I did was write and write and write and write and read and read and read and write and write and write, I think I got burnt out. And I've mentioned in other posts about, getting burnt out and having to kind of find my way back to reading and writing as a form of enjoyment. But I would say now I identify myself as a writer. I used to say I was an editor, which I am. I am an editor by training and by trade. And I love it, like editing, especially editing for content, for ideas, workshopping ideas with another writer. I love that. And I think, honestly, that is what gets me closest to this feeling of connection, is helping another person get their ideas out of their head and into the world, in some way, onto paper, into practice, whatever it may be. And I feel a lot of connection when I do that. So maybe I need to pursue that more. Maybe I'm letting that slide too much. Because I'm good at editing. I mean, I've trained for it for years and years, like 15 years, 20 years. Gosh, how long have I been editing? I would say it's like 20 years of editing practice and doing it professionally and, non-professionally, peer review. I mean, I've been editing a long time, and I would say that I am very good at it, and I can edit all sorts of content. But I like editing work that I can speak to the creator directly. Maybe not in person, but I can directly communicate with them. Okay, preferably in person. I think because I know how to talk to them. When I'm talking to them about something I know and understand and some way to make what they do better, I can communicate and clearly, and that feels great. That's awesome, because the rest of the time I'm a gibbering idiot. And I kind of just want that with someone else with regards to my work. So maybe I'm starting to realize the clear pathway here, and I just have to figure out how to make it work, how to do it. What I need is a content editor. I need a creative developmental editor of my own. But, affordability wise, I can't really afford to do that right now. So, I get why people hire me to help them with this, because doing it on your own, it's so sad. It's so lonely. You're raising a child, essentially, when you're writing a book, or some other long project like that. You're raising your baby, and you're by yourself, and you don't have anyone to show when something new has been developed, or when you were struggling, or how you've helped it accomplish something you never thought it would accomplish, or how it surprised you. You have no one to share this with, at all. And you can tell, your significant others or your family about, I wrote today and it was good, or, I was really struggling today, but they have no idea what that means. And it's like its own little world that you're creating. No matter what you're writing, it's this own thing that's growing and developing and gaining legs. And you are alone with it. You are alone knowing it as well as you do. Unless perhaps you get an editor that is able to connect with it. And I'm not just talking, syntax, grammar. I mean someone who's able to look into it, see it for what it is, maybe help make it become what it's meant to become. And that type of connection, of sharing that understanding, or trying to share that understanding with another person. Oh, I want that. So I guess I gotta get an editor, but I don't know how to even go about that, especially when I can't afford one. So, and I'm, loath, unless I'm in contractor, this is someone I'm, have known for decades, to share, my unvarnished work with them for legal reasons, practical reasons, embarrassment. And yet here I am, putting things out onto the internet, writing up scripts, acting them out, and being like, go, no big deal. But I don't feel like I would love to get more feedback on my work, the things that are working in it. I am, still very, very new at this. And so getting that feedback, it means so much, because I think it's part of connection to that creative process, knowing that others are connecting to what you've created. It's not a popularity contest. It's not just knowing, oh, well, they liked it. Oh, I did a good job. Well, yeah, there's some of that. You want some kudos. You want some, a pat on the back. But you also just want them to know Like, you want to know that someone else got what you intended them to get. They experienced what you intended for them with your creative work. And it's hard to connect that way. And, if you're not getting enough, people are busy. You can't always write along, oh, this is what I loved. And, I get that for sure. So you rely on things that are anonymous and simplistic, like a like, or mere fact that they viewed it, or maybe they subscribed. All these are wonderful things for YouTube, but it's not a conversation. And I'm longing for a conversation about creative work that I've made, not just people telling me, oh, I love your stuff, it's so good. Great, I do want that because I'm a creator. Artists like to hear they're doing a good job. I'm pretty sure it's everybody. But I want to connect on the things that made me excited to make them. And so right now, this channel, but also the writing I'm doing outside of it. I'm actually working at trying to set up a writers group in which it's literally just a support group for writers. These do not have to be, I published something. It's just writers in the sense of, I want to write regularly. And I'm either working on a project, or I'm working on a daily goal. I'm working on something of some kind, or I want to be working on these things. And the hope is that we're not sharing our work beyond perhaps in the sense of, I was struggling with this character because of this, and this, that kind of thing. But that's more explication than it is wanting a peer review. It's not going to be about reviewing our work or even sharing it, because I think that creates its own issues. It definitely, in me, creates this desire to perform and not to fail and to get validation from other people. And I don't think that's what I'm looking for. I want someone who I can talk about these general ideas of writing, character development, plot development, daily goals, getting your environment into a state that makes you want to write, topics, finding topics that you like to write. How do you access that? What have you accessed? And what was a weird experience you had while writing? All of these weird little niche concepts. And I think they apply to pretty much anybody other than, maybe it's like, plot. Those are people who are writing prose and potentially fiction. But overall, I just want us to be able to talk and enjoy the idea of understanding each other really well about this part of ourselves. And I miss that. I don't even know if I've ever had it. I feel like when I was young, again, my ego got in the way and my anxiety about how they perceive me, that I never really got to revel in that connection that I might have been able to make with my classmates. And then any work stuff I've done freelance for pretty much ever. And freelance means that I don't get feedback regular. I don't have a boss who gives me feedback, which is great in some ways. In other ways, I think, wow, is this being seen? Am I seen in this way? I think we want to be seen. Not watched, but seen for ourselves. And there's such a fine line between performative creativity and creativity just for the sheer pleasure of it, that I think we can feel lonely in the search of it, stuck between those two, not knowing how to be one or the other, how to do one or the other, and we can feel lost. And I have felt very, very lost and alone with regards to many of my creative and writing endeavors. because I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I'm a decent writer. I'm a great editor. But in terms of putting yourself out there as a creative, I don't know if any of us know what we're doing. And it feels like I would love someone. I wouldn't even have to know them in person. I think I'd be okay just knowing them through our conversation, and that we would connect about these things, these brain things, without any other strings of ego or, friendship. I mean, this would be a friendship, but the friendship would be built on this creative connection, not on, all these other aspects of life, because I think that's when it gets complicated. You try to maintain a friendship in so many ways, and you don't have any energy left to dabble into this world of creativity with that friend. I just think that I really would like someone who I can just talk to about these things I like to do. And that's what we talk about. And that would be a great friendship to add to my lovely collection. Not a collection, but, the lovely friends I already have. That I would like that side of things. I want to just talk about some of the stuff in depth. Be full nerd. And I don't have that right now, and I don't really know how to go about getting it. I'm trying this writers group. We'll see how it goes. But I just feel like such a weirdo whenever I want to start talking about these things. And yet here I am just going on and on and on to you. But see, the lovely thing about that is, if you're bored, that's exactly what my channel's supposed to be. I'm supposed to bore you to sleep if you need it. Or just fill your air with blah, 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 blah while you're working on things. And so I can be a little more honest and a little more strange without repercussions, hopefully. Anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. Hopefully, if your goal was to go to sleep, I didn't get too loud or boisterous or squawking. And that I can leave you with some good thoughts, leave you with thoughts in general. I don't want this to be a sad post. It's more hopeful and questioning. It's not about just being kind of wallowing in it. Like I said, this creator I listened to, it got me thinking, and I started thinking about my own particular brand of loneliness. And you would think it would be, I think that's what bothers me, in this world of connectivity and online resources. You think a relationship like that, I would say kind of like a professional relationship, or at least a niched relationship regarding creative excitement. I think that's what I want. I want someone to discuss creative excitement about me. For me, it would be maybe writing, acting combination. And I have no idea how to find that. Because you get a little afraid. You think, well, is this person legit? Is this person laughing at me secretly? Are they making things up? Are they real? Are they really wanting the same thing out of these conversations? And you have no idea, and so you kind of just keep away. You don't reach out. Sorry, I can't breathe apparently. So I'm gonna start with in-person things in my local area, and I guess we'll see how that goes. I'm trying not to be nervous about it, but I think that I am nervous about it. I want it to go well. I want to be able to find other people that I can talk to. But I'm very afraid that I'm going to be too bossy or talk too much somehow, or maybe not talk enough, that I won't be able to find a balance. And I am setting the group up and running it, so it gives me a little more freedom of control in that way, so I can kind of, well, if I am talking more, it's only because I'm trying to organize the group. But I don't want to miss out on anyone else's lovely sharing because I'm just freaking out. Because suddenly I have people around me who want to talk about this stuff. I'll keep you updated after it starts up. It's not supposed to start up until November or something. I'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening or just zoning out. Both are appreciated. Love them both. If you have any thoughts on any of these topics, feel free to share in the comments. I love hearing from people. It makes me realize I'm actually connecting to other people, that, my work is connecting to someone else and maybe making their day better. That is my goal. I would love to make your day a little bit better with my posts on YouTube and Patreon. And if you're interested in this content a little earlier than the rest, and also the not safe for work content or the bonus materials that I sometimes put on there, definitely look into my Patreon. That's patreon.com/averagegirlasmr. But I've kept that up since the beginning, so it's well put together, I think, considering I'm not a web designer. Yeah, so anyway, I hope you have a lovely day, a lovely evening, and lovely dreams. And I'll talk to you later. Alright, bye-bye.